They said it never happened, that it was just a story, a myth passed around the internet, a creepypasta. But the documents tell a different story, and if even a fraction of it is true, then something far worse than sleep deprivation was unleashed inside that chamber. The beginning. In the late 1940s, at the height of post-war tension, Soviet researchers began a classified experiment. Their goal was simple, or at least it sounded simple. Keep a human being awake for as long as possible, not with torture, not with drugs that cause pain, but with a special experimental gas stimulant, something that would eliminate the need for sleep entirely. They selected 5 test subjects, political prisoners, enemies of the state, people no one would miss. The deal was clear. Stay awake for 30 days and you earn your freedom. No tricks, no hidden clauses, just survive. The chamber. The experiment took place in a sealed environment, a reinforced chamber. No windows, no way out. Inside were beds, books, running water, and food rations to last over a month, and microphones to monitor them. There were no cameras. This was the 1940s. The only way to observe them was through sound. The gas was introduced slowly, invisible, odorless, and at first completely effective. Days 1 to 3. The first 3 days were normal. The subjects talked, laughed, shared stories. They read books aloud, joked about their future freedom. There were no signs of distress, no signs of anything unusual. Days 4 to 5. Then something changed. The conversations became darker, more personal, more paranoid. They began whispering to each other, softly, as if they didn't want to be heard, even though they knew they were being monitored. Day 6. By the 6th day, the whispering stopped. Instead, they began speaking to the microphones, one at a time, taking turns. Each subject would approach the microphone and begin confessing. Not crimes, not secrets, but things that didn't make sense. They accused each other. They described things they claimed the others had done, things that no one else heard, things that no one else saw. The researchers were confused, but they continued the experiment. Days 7 to 9. Then the screaming began. One of the subjects started, a loud, continuous scream for hours, then days. He screamed until his vocal cords tore, until his voice became nothing but a dry, rasping sound. And then he stopped. The others didn't react. They didn't comfort him. They didn't even acknowledge him. Instead, they tore the pages out of the books, covered them in their own waste, and smeared them across the observation windows. The chamber went silent. Day 10. For 2 days, nothing. No sound, no movement, just silence. The researchers panicked. They thought the subjects were dead. So they used the intercom for the first time. A voice echoed into the chamber. "We are opening the chamber to test the microphones. Step away from the door and lie flat on the floor, or you will be shot." There was a pause. Then a voice responded, calm, clear, completely emotionless. "We no longer want to be freed." Day 15. The decision was made. They had to open the chamber. When they did, they weren't prepared. The smell hit them first. Rotting flesh, decay, blood.
something far worse than anything they had expected. Inside, only 4 subjects remained. The 5th was gone, or rather, what was left of him was scattered across the floor. His body had been torn apart, eaten, but the others were still alive. What they saw, the survivors were no longer human. Their skin had been torn open, muscle exposed, bones visible. They had mutilated themselves, and yet they were still standing, still moving, still alive. Their eyes were wide, unblinking, wild, and their smiles were wrong. The soldiers refused to enter. They didn't want to go near them, but orders were orders. As they stepped inside, the subjects attacked. Not like humans, not like animals, something worse. They moved with impossible speed, tearing through soldiers, biting, clawing, ripping. One soldier had his throat torn out, another was disemboweled, and through it all, the subjects didn't scream. They laughed. The capture. Eventually, they were subdued. Barely. One died instantly, another soon after. Only one remained, barely held together, barely human, but still alive. The final interview. They restrained him, strapped him to a table. A researcher stepped forward, hands shaking, voice trembling. He asked, "What are you?" The subject smiled, a slow, horrible, knowing smile, and then he spoke. "We are you." Silence. "We are what you hide every night when you close your eyes." The room felt colder. "We are the part of you that dreams." The researcher couldn't move. "We are the part of you that dreams." A pause. Then the final words. "And when you take away sleep, you set us free." The end. The experiment was terminated. The remaining subject was executed. The documents were sealed, hidden, forgotten. But sometimes, late at night, when you're lying awake and the silence feels just a little too heavy, you might wonder, what would happen if you never slept again?